المتحدثين فيها السيدة ليندا صرصور، فلنتشرف لنستمع لها هنا. السيدة ليندا هي ناشطة سياسية فلسطينية أمريكية، عرفت بنشاطها لكل ما له علاقة بالإنسان وحقوق الإنسان، مناهضة الإسلاموفوبيا والعنصرية، وأيضاً كان لها حضور بارز في حملة Black Lives Matter الشهيرة. تفضلي سيدة ليندا.
Please put your hands together for Linda Sarsour.
I am unapologetically Muslim American, unapologetically Palestinian American, and unapologetically from Brooklyn, New York. Sisters and brothers, we are in crisis, and I believe that many of those who have come before me on the stage have talked about the crises around us. There are fires blazing, actual fires, wars and conflicts and pandemics, and you name it, we are experiencing it all over the world. From the United States of America to France, to Somalia, to our Uyghur Muslim sisters and brothers in China, to Syria, to Iraq, you name it, we are experiencing it all over the world. Many times people want to ask you to pick and choose who you are. And oftentimes people will say, Sister Linda is a Muslim activist, and my activism is stripped of me, in the sense that people think I am an activist because I am an American, or I am an activist because I am a Palestinian. Sisters and brothers, I am an activist because I am a Muslim. Today, when we talk about unleashing potential, we have to ask ourselves, where does our potential come from? And for me, and I hope that my story resonates with folks in this room and folks outside this room, those of you who are Muslim and those sisters and brothers who are in this room who are not Muslim. My potential comes from me being a Muslim. And my very best example of activism and organizing and being the change that I want to see comes from my beloved Prophet Muhammad. May peace and blessings be upon him. Every issue that was discussed in this room today is emulated by our beloved Prophet Muhammad. May peace and blessings be upon him. Being an activist and an organizer is following the steps of our beloved Prophet Muhammad. May peace and blessings be upon him. So when we talk about climate change, our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, taught us that the trees and the lakes and the ocean and the planet are blessings from Allah that we need to take care of. So climate justice is not a Western phenomenon. It is a concept very core to the beloved deen that I follow. When we talk about issues of refugees and immigrant rights, our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, was a refugee himself. And he taught us about welcoming the stranger. And so when we become and force our nations to open its borders, to welcome Syrian and Iraqi refugees and refugees from Afghanistan and from all over the world, that is following in the steps of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. A man of great dignity who wanted to give to those less fortunate and make sure those who are less fortunate had access. Many people know me from the Women's March on Washington, which till today is the largest single day protest in American history. And a lot of people coincide the Women's March with women's rights and feminism. And I want you to know that as a Muslim American and as a Muslim, I did not learn feminism and women's rights from Western feminists. I did not learn women's rights from America. I learned women's rights from my beloved deen and from my beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. Sisters and brothers, we have to go back to our foundation. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, elevated women and the status of women. He encouraged the education of our daughters. We also learned through a hadith that heaven lies at the feet of our mothers. So when we organize in our countries, both Muslim majority countries and non-Muslim majority countries, and especially those of you, my sisters who are in this room, that you hold your back straight and you hold your head held high, because you are brilliant and you are empowered because you follow our beloved deen. Not because governments have given you rights, not because other Western feminists have given you rights or other organizations have given you rights. You come from a religion that has given you God-given rights to be the brilliant women that you are here today in this room. Something that I think is very important as we embark on unleashing our potential is also understanding that when your potential is unleashed, also opposition is unleashed. So I'm going to be honest with all of you here in this room, that if you make the decision, and some of you have already made this decision, and this may resonate with you, that when you unleash your potential to be a truth teller, someone who seeks justice and equity in your countries, you will be met with opposition. The opposition may be in your government, they may be politicians, they may be even leaders within our own Arab and Muslim communities who are very comfortable with the status quo. And so be prepared for that opposition. And I say to all of you that what prepares us for opposition is history. As an American political activist, I come from a nation that purports to be the leader of the free world, a country that purports to be a democracy. And what you have watched and I have experienced is the crackdown in many decades against Black activists, Muslim activists, other minority activists who dare stand up and say, enough is enough, and we all deserve to live with dignity and justice in our country. And that opposition is fierce, and it comes in many forms. The use of the media to slander some of our most powerful revolutionaries all around the world. It will come in the ways of being targeted, maybe at your homes, maybe at your places of work. And it's oftentimes very hard to deal with. But I will say to all of you standing here today in Istanbul at this Sharq Forum, that I have been here, I am still here, and I am still standing. Because no opposition is more powerful than seeking justice and equity for those who are most marginalized around the world. This fight is worth it, sisters and brothers. This fight for justice is worth it. And for those of you who are Muslim in this room, and I say this all the time, people have asked me in America, people who are not Muslim, they say, where do you get this courage from? Why are you not afraid? All of these targeting, you get death threats, you are slandered in Western media. Why are you not afraid? I said, you know why? Because I am a Muslim. I only fear Allah. I don't fear the opinions of man or woman. I don't care what the opinions of our governments are. What I do know is that our creation, our fellow sisters and brothers around the world who need us, who need our voices for justice, are counting on us. And Allah will reward the truth tellers. Allah will reward those of us who make sacrifices for the things that we believe in. So be prepared for opposition, but at the same time, I want you to know that at the end, you will prevail, that justice will prevail. And that is what keeps me motivated and what keeps me doing this work. Sisters and brothers, I learned one time from our civil rights leaders, many of whom are not here with us today in the United States. And if you remember a very important speech that Dr. Martin Luther King gave, and he said, I see the promised land, but I may not get there with you. And what he meant by that is saying that maybe our generation, we may not see the fruits of our labor. Inshallah, we do see the liberation of Arab majority and Muslim majority countries around the world. And I want to see a free Palestine as a Palestinian. But I may not see a free Palestine in my lifetime. But it does not mean that I will not plant seeds today to ensure that the next generation and generations after me will experience the fruits of my labor. And that is what keeps me encouraged and keeps me motivated. So while everyone tells you that the world is dark, that the world is bleak, that we are losing hope, my hope is great because of you and young people like you around the world. I want to ask my sisters in the room to stand up. If you are a sister in this room, I want you to stand up. Just stand up wherever you are. Stand up. It shouldn't take you that long to be unapologetic about who you are, and stand up and put your back straight. And the reason I ask you to stand up, my sisters, and I say this as a message to our beloved brothers who are in this room, and for our beloved brothers who hopefully will have access to the information presented at this conference. Unleashing potential of our government, unleashing potentials of our communities, our organizations and institutions is unleashing your leadership as sisters, as women in our communities. You are the potential that has not been elevated and leveraged for justice and equity and for the solutions that we are looking for. You are the solution. You are nurturers by nature. You are strategic by nature. And our organizations and institutions and our governments would benefit from listening to the powerful voices of women. Oftentimes, and many of you have heard this a long time ago, they used to say, and I used to hear this in the community that I was from, they used to say, Sawt al-mar'a awra. They used to discourage us from elevating our voices as women. And I tell you today, and you have heard this before, that Sawt al-mar'a thawra, that the voice of women is revolution. And we have watched powerful revolutionaries from Yemen to Saudi Arabia to Syria to Somalia and Sudan, and yes, even in the United States of America. Now we're here to talk about let's move forward together. And oftentimes we come to conferences, we listen, we get inspired, and we go home. It's not enough. It's not enough. So I'm going to ask you to do a few things at this conference. And I already started doing this. Get to know somebody that you don't know. Get to know somebody that is not from your home country. Because there is a quote that I read one time that really speaks to me in the way in which I organize. And it is by an Aboriginal woman named Leela Watson. And she said, if you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come here because you believe that your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Sisters and brothers, our liberation as Americans is bound up with the liberation of the Palestinian people, of the Syrian people, of the Lebanese, Sudanese, Somali people, of Uyghur Muslims, of people all over the world. And until we as activists and organizers and leaders of nonprofits believe that our work is connected across borders, that these lines that were created for us to divide us from other nations and other peoples was a very specific agenda to make you believe that you are different from others. But we all have the same values. We all want to live in dignity. We all want to live in respect. We also want to thrive. I don't know about you, sisters and brothers, but the Palestinian people, they don't want to survive. They want to thrive. The people of Syria don't want to survive. They want to thrive. We want to thrive. Our young people want access to quality high education. We want to live in a world where we can fulfill our aspirations and our dreams. And that starts with all of us. And I will end by saying to all of you that after you get to know one another, work with one another. And after you make the decision to work with one another, you got to take risks. You got to get out of your comfort zones. My entire career has been made on this premise that I want to do what nobody else wants to do. And I want to say what nobody else wants to say. Because the times that we live in require that. Whatever we've been doing is not working, sisters and brothers. It is not working for our people. So that requires new and innovative ideas. That requires you saying, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm willing to try something different. It also requires us to see something and be willing to say that it is wrong And we come from a beloved faith, many of us in this room, that teaches us stand up against injustice, even if again it's against your own parents, against your own kin. So you have a faith that has given you the foundation to be innovative, to be excellent, and to be a truth teller. I always say this about Muslim countries and Muslim governments. If only we were following the core principles of our deen, we would be excellent. Because Islam calls us to be excellent. I don't know about you, did you ever read a hadith or read an ayah in the Quran that tells you to be mediocre or to do things halfway? We are called to be excellent. I am honored to be here in this space. I am honored to meet more of you in person. I am honored to continue to represent my beloved faith across this world. And I will say this one last thing for you and those outside of this room, that oftentimes we are our worst enemies. Oftentimes we are the obstacles to our own progress. And sometimes our opposition includes people within our own communities. My advice to all of you is keep going, keep moving, keep doing the work, continue to persevere, to resist. Sisters and brothers, we are all very privileged to be here in this room. And I want you to think about how privileged you are and how there are many young people around the world that did not get access to this incredible room, this incredible institution. And so I say to you, from them, that you have a responsibility being in this room, to think about what you are going to go home with to the Muslim communities, to the Arab communities, to the minority communities that you come from. There's a lot for us to do. And I say to all of you, as has been said on the stage by many before me, and we say this in the United States in our movement spaces all the time. We say, we are all we got and we are all we need. That means that we should not be looking to academia alone to answer for our solutions, that you are not to look to our governments to answer for the crises that we are experiencing around the world, that we have those solutions, and around the world, many times over, that has been presented to you in examples like mutual aid during the pandemic. If you remember, during a global pandemic in the United States of America, it was ordinary Americans that were delivering food to people who were not able to leave their homes. It was ordinary Americans who were collecting PPE to distribute to poor communities around the United States of America. And I am sure that is the same mutual aid programs that were happening in countries all over the world. We are the solution. We are the leaders of the revolutions. And so I say to all of you today, stop waiting for everybody else and start doing the work, continue doing the work, because the solutions that we will leave here in these next 2 days are going to come from you. Our progress is from you. Our success is from you. So inshallah, in our lifetime, we will see justice in every corner of this world. And even if we do not, at least a generation after us or two after us will say, MashaAllah, those young people that were living in 2022, they were the reason why we can live today and we can succeed today and we can thrive today. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you to the Sharq Youth Forum for having me today. Thank you very much.